So how challenging is it for your guys last week to face the offense for so much read option and all that? And I guess to contrast that, is this a much easier week to be a coach?
Yeah, this offseason when the schedule came out, the game that I don't know, you say that kind of worried me the most was Baltimore. Because they're so different at what they do. One, if you just look at the run game, we won't see that the entire year. It's kind of like if you're in college football, you got to play Army in the middle of the year, right? And so, I get you got Kansas City, all these teams, but they're just so different at what they do, And then obviously, at the time I didn't know Lamar wasn't going to play, but just that, the quarterback getting out, and this kid obviously last week can do the same dang thing. So, and just playing for Baltimore and knowing what their culture is, I think it says a lot about just these last three losses. They've only lost by 4 points. It's a good football team, and I think sometimes you overlook in the NFL. You got to come out there with the win. And that's where I was proud with our guys. When it comes down to it, you're winning the game. That big, 2-point conversion stop is big. I've done this thing long enough where that's a good dang football team. And so coming out of that place with the win is huge. And so obviously there's a lot of stuff that we got to clean up, on defense and stuff like that. But sometimes in the NFL, I mean, Coach Reed just talked about it all the time, you can't forget you won the damn game. So, you got to clean up the stuff that you make, but you got to also be proud of your team fighting through those adversities and coming out with the win.
Hey, Doherty.
Hey, Mike. So along those lines, what's the difference of maintaining the pass rush lanes that you did so well against Murray, Wilson, Mahomes? What's the difference doing it against them as opposed to Baltimore? And obviously, it went a lot better in those first three games and those other three than this one.
Sure. I mean, I think actually Pat was the only one that really didn't get out, and his game plan was different. Really, even see the whole year. I think the only time that Pat got out was that last play of the game where he got to Tyreek. But Murray got out and Russell at times. But no, it's always a challenge with the running quarterback. I mean, that it's starting to get where there's receivers in the backfield. I think the most disappointing part of that game, those quarterbacks didn't get out at times. You got to try to limit it. I mean, you guys got to think about it. You got 4 rushers and there's 6 lanes that you got to cover, right? But what was disappointing at times, there was about 3 or 4 where we hurt ourselves. We had some games called where he got out. There was a chop and spin on the edge that was too early, got out. That was late in the game, understanding this quarterback, what he wants to do. He wants to give ground. There was one with Rashawn. He got chipped by the back. I think it's a great example. This quarterback actually got 17 yards from the line of scrimmage and got out and just outran him. We had a pressure called that we had a spy that he got out because he got chipped. So there's some disappointing things that we can control. Some of them, RG missed him about 12 times back there. It's tough. It is. It's no excuse, but it's tough. You'd love to say, hey, all right, let's just spy the son of a gun every snap, right? Well, 89's catching balls. You'd like to double his butt. You start doubling him, the kid gets out. So it's easier said than done. I always love hearing people say, oh, they should have done this, that. Well, you know what? Get in that situation and the stuff that they do and do it. But we've got to do a better job, and it starts with me doing a better job as a coach. But it always makes a challenge when you play those type of guys that can just flat out just outrun you around the corner. Giving ground and running around the corner. So clearly we got to do a better job doing that. I mean, that's never going to end. I mean, like you said, we've played about 8 of those jokers this year, and so that's kind of where the NFL is going. That's how they extend plays and stuff like that. And we just got to continue to do better, and I got to do better as a coach to limit those big plays by them. I mean, when you look at it, just pull up the scramble. I mean, you guys got PFF and that stuff. Pull up the scramble tape. All right. The previous week with Justin Fields, he got out about 3 or 4 times. It was like 78 scrambles with him. Baker Mayfield, you feel like, all right, I feel pretty good about it, but he's got about 68 scrambles. He's not as quick as that guy, and maybe not get a 40-yard gain on something, but he'll give you a headache. if you let them out. And so, and it always goes along the lines is, and I've said this before, we're not going to rush scared. We're not doing it. You think that was bad? Have 4 rushers that go out there and rush scared and stay in the line of scrimmage. It gets worse. And so we just got to be smart. And during the game, that's why that chop and spin that happened early or later in the game, hey, this guy's getting out. That should be the last move that you freaking think of at that moment. And so there's just always learning moments in the game that we got to get better at. But obviously it always starts with me.
Jason Wilde.
Hey, Mike, the Pro Bowl voting is going to come out here in a little bit, and you've been without a guy who was a real stud for you the last 2 years. He played, 18 snaps in the opener. How do you feel like your guys have performed this season despite losing him? I mean, Preston has re-elevated his game, it seems like, and obviously we know how you feel about Rashawn, but what do you think about what your group's been able to do without a guy that's been pretty damn good?
Starting with Preston, I think this is Preston's best year since I've been here. I know a lot of people, like I said, want to go on the sacks. It ain't about that. But I think this is the best he's ever played. Just overall everything, pass rush, run, pass. I mean, just a really good year. And then, like you said, with RG, huge strides this year. I take my 2 guys, and I'm honest about this, and not playing favorites versus anybody in the league. It's like I said 3 weeks ago. When you get high-paid guys or big-name guys like Rashawn and Preston, around the league, and that's what's hard. People don't study film. They always go off of sacks, and it's hard for me not to think of a guy that doesn't around the league that doesn't play. Try to get sacks on run plays. They play the game the way it should be freaking played. When it's run, they play run. They're not trying to get sacks on run plays and run up the field and guess and all that type stuff. We do our job, and that's how we play defense. That's why I couldn't be more proud of Preston, right? He's got all these incentives, try to get sacks, pull up the run game. He don't do it. He ain't going to try to get a sack on a run play, right? Those guys guess right or guess wrong, and there's an 80-yard touchdown, right? They might guess right on that next play and get a sack. We don't do that mess. So that's why I couldn't be more proud of Preston, because he had a lot of pressure coming in this year, right, off of last year. And I thought those first 9 games wasn't his best football, but he does his job. And that's where I respect with Preston. And the same thing with Rashawn. It's easy to get influenced. We watch the pressure tape every week on who we're playing, each lineman. And you'll see these guys just screaming up the field, right, every week, and just getting killed in the run game. We're not going to do it. It's about winning games. So that's until this thing changes about the whole sacks and that's how you evaluate a rusher. It's the biggest joke I've said since I've been here, right? Look at their snap count, how many snaps they've got rushing the quarterback. Look at their pressures, right? There's a lot of things that factor into being a rusher. So I couldn't be more proud of those 2 guys, of what they accomplished this year and how they work, how they prepare, and that's football. This game is changing, and it's changing in a bad way. With that, it's getting worse every year with these guys because it's incentives in their contract. Sacks, everybody cares about, and so that's what they're going to do. You get a $100 million athlete, that's what they're going to do. What can you say to them? So, anyways, it's just it. I love who I got. I love the personalities I got. Those guys want to win games. They want to win a Super Bowl. They could care less about the Pro Bowl or being all pro. That's what we want. We want to do our job. Help us get better on defense and roll from there.
Wes Hodkowitz.
Hey, Mike, to follow up on Preston a little bit and kind of rewinding over to the Bears game, he drew a lot of praise from Aaron and some of the defensive guys for the speech he gave at halftime. I'm just curious, and not that you're ever really too privy to all that, but what have you thought of him in terms of that aspect of it and just sort of how the leadership has sort of taken hold the last 3 years with the locker room, with what he does?
I think it's big. I mean, a coach can only say so much. I think where I was proud about Preston in that moment, because I was about to go in there and about to lose it. And I walked in there and I saw him give that speech because he knows, these guys know. But when you get these players that get up and they talk, and when they know something's not right, the other guys, it's big. You need those guys. I was fortunate to play with Ray Lewis, and he was that guy. And so, we're lucky enough we've got a handful of those guys on this team that They know what it looks like. And they know when we're starting off slow, we have high expectations, not just only in our room, but on defense. And so you need those guys to stand up and say, hey, let's go. This is not us. This is not who we are. And so, because it's not always going to be pretty. I mean, I've been part of some very good defenses, great defenses. And it's going back to the Baltimore game. There's going to be some games that aren't pretty in the NFL. It's not easy. But the good teams, they find a way to finish and win the game when it comes down to it at the end, right? And so that's a sign of a good football team, when they find a way to win when things aren't going your way sometimes. And so, and that takes leaders, and that takes the Aaron Rodgers of the world, and the Prestons, and the Kenny Clarks, and the Dre's of the world. You know, Devontae Adams, Mercedes Lewis. I can go across the board with these guys on our team. You got to find a way to win the game, because it's not going to be easy and pretty every week. So, you know, you don't want to have the mistakes, obviously, that you made during the game, and you've got to clean those up. But sometimes things just don't line up right. You know, it's kind of hard to explain. You know, it's just how it is. And so, you know, it's obviously great when you have those leaders. I've been a part of teams when you don't. You know, you've got great football players who are just quiet. It's just not who they are. And so, we're fortunate enough to have a handful of those guys that's big.
All right, we have two more. Tom Silverstein.
Hey, Mike, just curious real quick. You know, when you face one of these scrambling guys like Huntley, do the tackles try to bait you into inside moves so the guy can get outside? Is that common or not?
No, sure, it is. This Baltimore, it wasn't. You know, the thing about those scrambling quarterbacks is funny, because you hear guys like, well, they always like to step up and then get out, or they always like to, you know, get out over the top. It's kind of like running water. It's like wherever they fill an opening is where they take. But you're exactly right. We've had a couple of teams this year where they'll bait you inside so they can get out. That was kind of disappointing, you know, at the later in the third, fourth quarter, that chop and spin I was talking about. But, you know, it's just it can be a headache. You know, like I said, there's 6 open gaps and there's 4 rushers, and you got a kid back there that can runs a 4.3. I mean, you know, I wish I could sit here and say, I have the perfect defense for that. Well, we do. We can get a spy. You know, a 4-man rush and have a spy, which is really a 5-man rush, but the guy's not coming. He's sitting there. Well, you know, they got other players on offense. That damn tight end's pretty damn good from Baltimore, and so you're just playing a chess match with them. You know, I thought, like I said, the disappointing thing, there was 3 or 4 plays where we hurt ourselves. That can't happen. The guy's going to make his way to get out. Like I said, there's 78 scrambles on tape. You can just watch these guys just move around everywhere. But we can't hurt ourselves. You know, we've got to limit those. You know, like you said, those other quarterbacks you talked about with Murray, he got out. You know, he outran. He was the same way. He likes to give ground. They like to get back to their launch points, usually around quarterbacks like that. To extend plays is usually about 8.5, 9. You know, those guys are usually at the bottom of the list with holding on to the ball. But when they give ground, you know, to 17 or 18 yards so they can get out and extend the play, that's where it makes it a little bit more challenging. You know, because then you, as a rusher, you're sitting on the edge. You're like, well, this guy's getting really deep. Maybe I get a little bit higher on my rush. Then he steps up and gets out there. Like, talk about that water getting out. You know, and so, but like I said from the beginning, we're not going to rush scared. That's the worst thing you can do, is sit back and just say, all right, I'm just going to stand at the line of scrimmage or just hold the block and see what's going on. Now you're messing up the back end. Now they got to freaking cover out there forever. So it's just a fine line. You've just got to clean up the ones that we hurt ourselves, and clean those things up, and it's just kind of how it rolls. It happens every week. I think I saw Justin Fields with the Chicago and Minnesota game. I think he freaking at the end of the game, right? He scrambled for like that 25-yard run, and I sit back and watch and just start laughing. I mean, it's just freaking gives you a headache.
Sorry, Coach.
No,
last
you're right.
one is Bill Huber.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, buddy.
The Pro Bowls tonight, and I don't know what's going to go on with Sean, and obviously linebacker's kind of a stupid position anyway because he gets lumped in with Levante David and all that. But is he a Pro Bowl player in your mind, whether he's going to be voted that or not? Is he a Pro Bowl guy in your mind?
Who is? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Sean.
I think so. I think both him and Preston are. But, you know, guys are going to say, well, that's your position and stuff. Like I said, I look at their play. I look at not just the sack number, which most people do. And the thing about the Pro Bowl, it's the fans and all that other stuff. There's a lot of different things that go into it. But I think if you just pull up everything and just see how they affect the quarterback, how they play the run, there's some coverage stuff, obviously, that we do. I think both of them are. I think it's, and there's some great outside linebackers in this league and edge defenders, but I do. I think you see what they bring every week, and how consistent they are at what they do. And like I said, they do their job. They don't do out and go do their own thing. That's not who we are. And if it ever gets to that point, which those guys aren't, if I'm somewhere else and it's like that, they probably won't like me being their coach, or I'll get out of this damn game, because it's starting to get really bad when you look around the league, because it's what everybody it's running the league. Somebody needs to make that change. How sacks freaking tell you how good a player is and gets to go to the Pro Bowl or All Pro and all that other stuff. It's ridiculous, and it couldn't get me more ticked off when I see it. When you get some of these guys, that's why I saw where Max Crosby's going, fired up. That kid is a hell of a rusher. He's got 5 sacks right this year, but put his tape on and he's affecting the quarterback. He's got a high motor. He doesn't stop. He does his job. Like that. Those are the guys that deserve it. Who cares about that sack mess? I couldn't be more fired up when I saw that he got it, because I've been admiring that kid all this year. He plays the game the way it should be played, and that's what's losing in the NFL because of this whole sack mess. So, fired about that kid. I'm glad he made it. So, but I do. I think both those guys deserve it. So, if they don't get it, I guarantee you one thing: neither one of them are going to sweat about it, because we've got way bigger goals than that.